Yo everyone, in this video I am responding to It's Cap Knock. You should make a video called the Yalla Food Pyramid. I know meat and eggs will be the base since it's vital for good health. I eat meat and eggs at almost all my meals. Sometimes I just use a stupid protein powder recipe for fun, but I'm curious on where you put foods like, quote, healthy bread or certain carbs at and where the veggies are placed. Just an idea. Also, awesome video. Thanks. And that video is in response to why calories in, calories out is not all that matters in losing weight. So I've created the Yalla Papi food pyramid right here. This is the most retarded looking food pyramid you have probably ever seen, but it's the best one. So we're going to go over it right now. Starting out at the bottom. Look at this. Look how much work I put into this. Yeah, it took me 10 minutes. Okay, so at the S tier, we're going to give them cool names like S tier and B tier and stuff like that. Oh, wait, actually, just kidding. There we go. All right, so S tier right here. 60 to 70% of your food calories should be from the S tier. Now, normally I say 80 to 90%, right? You guys have heard me say a million times, eat 80 to 90% of your calories from meat and eggs. In this case, I've reduced that number because realistically, it's not 80 to 90%. If you are, if you take into account things like, how you cook the food and all the other stuff you eat afterwards, I still think that eating 80 to 90% of your calories from meat and eggs is ideal if you have a weight problem, if you have a problem with binging, or if you have an eating disorder, like you're anorexic or something. I think 80 to 90%, I think that's still a good figure. In general, I just say, to eat, just to keep things simple, eat one meal a day and eat, like when you eat that meal, you should eat until you are stuffed. And the only thing you should eat should be meat and eggs, plus like whatever you cook it with, like cooking oil or whatever. Okay, so let's just go over these really quickly in case that somehow is confusing to you. Beef, right? This little thing here is beef. Chicken. This is pork. Eggs. Raw milk. Shellfish or shrimp or whatever the fuck, ocean creatures. Fish and liver. Okay, this 60 to 70% of your calories. This is what you should eat. 60 to 70% of your calories. They're all pretty good. You can't really go wrong with any of these. Obviously, it's best to mix and match because some foods will have things that the others don't. Like liver is super nutrient dense, has a lot of vitamin B, and fish has a lot of omega-3s, and milk has fucking whatever the fuck milk has. I don't even know. Eggs have a lot of healthy fats. Pork has iron. I don't even fucking know. But that's the beauty of my food pyramid, is that you don't actually need to know anything in order to follow it and live a happy, healthy life without having to worry about fucking the nutrients in your food. Like, just eat this. Just eat the S tier foods. If you get nothing else from this video, just eat the S tier foods. Really, that's what it is. I have beat this to death. I don't really know how else to say it, but just eat those foods. Eat and it's so crazy to me because that people always think the opposite. They're like, oh, I need to limit the amount of meat that I eat. And eat what exactly? Fucking vegetables. Notice there's no vegetables on here, by the way. No fucking vegetables, unless you count garlic and onions. Those are the only vegetables you need to eat. Vegetables essentially are water and cellulose, which is fiber, right? Some vegetables have some unique nutrients in them, like celery, for example, has, I want to say, androstenedione or androstenedione, which is a form of testosterone. So theoretically, you could eat a bunch of celery and boost your testosterone. Things like carrots have beta carotene, but you don't need that stuff. Take a fucking multivitamin, save yourself the trouble, and you don't need to eat fucking a bunch of carrots. Because if you think about it, you can't really, if you do not eat foods that are nutrient dense, or micronutrient dense, I guess, then you cannot eat enough foods to get every single possible thing that you need. You know what I mean? You can't okay, you need lycopene? Okay, you gotta eat tomatoes. Or you need beta carotene? Oh, now you gotta eat fucking carrots, right? You could just take a multivitamin and not worry about that shit. Or you don't even need to take a multivitamin and just eat the S tier foods and you're golden. Okay, the next one, the A tier. Okay, this is going to be your carbs or your starch, I guess. This is rice, least ideal. Oatmeal, most ideal. Well, technically, most ideal would be freshly baked homemade rye bread. That would be the most ideal. Check out the Weston A. Price Foundation for more information on healthy breads. I don't want to go over it too much now, but rye is very good for you. Let's see if I remember why. Something about being, no, not fermented. Something about probiotics or not having phytic acid or something like that. But the problem with most rye bread is that it's mixed with wheat flour, right? It's a mixture of wheat and rye together. So if you really want to get the good rye bread, you have to get the fucking old school, like imported from Europe, like a brick. It's like a brick in a plastic container, and it's dark brown, and it doesn't even look like bread, doesn't taste like bread, but that shit is super healthy. Try that. But none of you are going to eat that, so just eat oatmeal, right? This is like the best thing to do right here. Oatmeal, in my experience, has gives me the most endurance. I don't want to say energy. Oatmeal, oats also have zinc, but like a minimal amount of zinc that you're not, I don't know, can't really be like, oh, it's got a lot of zinc, chock full of zinc. Like, not really. But it has some, it's all right. But the best thing about oats is that if you are training hard and you eat oats, you will have a lot more energy to train, or a lot more endurance, I guess. Because I don't want to say energy because people will get that confused. Like, same thing. I was at work the other day and I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I need more energy, And this girl's like, oh, just drink water. It'll give you energy. What else did she say? Like, eat some sugar. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, the next one, oats, right? Just oats. Because you're not going to make your own bread. You're not going to buy that fucking bread that I talked about. And rice is okay. It's just it's not the ideal choice when compared to oats. Next one, B tier foods. Okay. This is basically stuff you are going to cook these things with if you are going to cook. Right now, if you're not going to cook, I think you could still make the case for eating these things. Garlic, olive oil, and onions. Okay. Garlic and onions, these are the only vegetables you ever need to eat. That's it. Done. And why? Not because like I'm eating empty, water-filled fiber pockets, No. These both have a lot of very good stuff in them. They're both very high in sulfur, which is important for a lot of stuff in your body. Garlic has a ton of immune system boosting benefits. They're both good for your heart. They're both antimicrobial, both very good for your gut. They both taste really good. They're the most delicious vegetables that you can eat. Back in the day, they used to use onions to treat wounds on the battlefield, to give you an idea. Like, they're very good. And olive oil, this is, I guess, would you need to have olive oil if you're not cooking? I don't know. I mean, I guess oil is useful for some things. It's good for your skin, I guess. But yeah, I guess you don't need olive oil if you're not going to cook. Like, if you really want to go hardcore, you would eat all of this raw, and then you would have the garlic raw and the what are these, onions? No, wait, these are the onions. This is the garlic. You don't have to get the red onions, by the way. You can get the white ones if you want. That's if you really want to go hardcore, but like realistically, like nobody's going to do that. So just, you can cook with this stuff. Okay, that's the B tier. And then the C tier, I have a little chocolate bar here. This is supposed to be dark chocolate, but in reality, C tier is like anything that is dessert, anything you consider to be dessert. In my opinion, like when I'm selecting a dessert for after my food, I have yet to find anything that is more ideal than dark chocolate, right? Because dark chocolate has a lot of cocoa and a very low amount of sugar, yet enough sugar that it'll still satisfy that sweet tooth, while you can still benefit from the, bioflavonoids and antioxidants in cocoa. So if somebody has a healthier dessert out there, please let me know. But to date, I have not found one. Now, does that mean you always need to eat the healthiest thing? You must have dark chocolate or you're a bad person? No, you want to eat fucking cookies, go ahead. But like, we're talking the most ideal foods possible. And that is how I've designed this food pyramid, to be comprised of the most ideal foods at every tier. And notice there's not a lot of foods here, not a lot of variety here. And then D tier, this is not really food per se, but it's still important enough to include on here because you are going to be consuming it. And it technically is food because it is something that you are consuming that is not water, right? So that's food, I guess. Herbs, spices, supplements, and nootropics. Okay, so herbs, when I say herbs, I mean basically supplements that are like dried herbs that are ground into powder and put in little capsules. That's what I mean by herbs. I don't think you're like eating fucking plants in your house that are not vegetables. Spices, these are things you will spice your cooked food with. Turmeric, cardamom, cumin, fucking pepper, salt, like eat those. These are kind of, I don't want to say unlimited, but you can kind of have these as needed. Like if you want to eat more salt, go ahead, eat more salt. You know, if you want to have more fucking turmeric on your food, go ahead. I mean, the upper limit of like the safe amount of turmeric to put on your food is probably beyond what you would actually want to consume in a dish that you cooked. So I don't think that's a problem. Supplements, obviously, this is a very broad topic that I could go into in a lot more detail, but let's just include them in the D tier. And then Neotropics, this is kind of like supplements as well, but just for a specific purpose. Supplements, I mean this in kind of like a general performance way / exercise, whereas Neotropics is more for like making you smarter and making you perform more complex tasks in an easier way. Okay, so important to note here, anything that is not in these tiers is dessert and should be eaten in moderation. Okay, so anything, notice that's in all caps, anything that is not in the S tier, anything that's not in the A tier, anything that's not in the B tier or the D tier is dessert. Okay, so here in S, A, and B, you have what I would consider real food. The D tier, this is like medicine, let's call it. So I don't want to say this is food. I guess you could, but it's like medicine. I would call it. I should call it the M tier. But anything that is not in these tiers is dessert. Okay, so anything that is not fucking liver, fish, shellfish, milk, eggs, animal flesh, freshly homemade rye bread, oatmeal, white rice, garlic or onions, olive oil, garlic. Anything that is not any of those foods is dessert, pretty much, right? If you're like, what about goat? Oh, can I eat goat? Yeah, motherfucker, you can eat goat because it's basically the same as this shit, right? But if you're like, what about protein powder? Or what about, you know, fucking, what did I watch? What about French toast? What about white bread? What about peanut butter? That's dessert. All that shit is dessert, okay? Fruit is dessert. It's all dessert. We're going to simplify this shit, right? Because it's not necessary, right? I'm not saying mango isn't good for you. Mango's amazing. It's wonderful. But like, where are you going to put it here in the pyramid? Like, you could put it in the C tier. You could put it there, but then it would be dessert, right? You don't need mango to be a major fucking part of your diet. You don't. I'm sorry. You don't need pineapple to be a major part of your diet. You do need these things to be a major part of your diet. You do need these to be a considerable part of your diet so you have energy to train. And you do need these things for the benefits to your heart and your digestive system and your fucking blood flow and your immunity, stuff like that. You need those. Do you need anything in the C tier? No, you don't. It's just a fucking modern trapping that when you see all of this like healthy or junk food around, you're like, damn, I kind of want some of that. How can I satisfy that urge in a safe and controlled way? Well, you eat dark chocolate. Or you eat 95% of your food that you're going to eat for the day first, and then afterwards you have the dessert. Okay, so anything that is not in these tiers is dessert. All right, that's a very important distinction that I like talking about a lot now, because I think it's very, once you can kind of think of food in that way, that you have real food and you have dessert, then it's very simple to categorize whether or not you should be eating something, right? If you're like, oh man, I kind of want some almond butter, and you look and you're like, is that on the list? No? Okay, I guess it's dessert then. You can eat it, but it should only be 5% of your calories. Or like, in a more general sense, you can eat it after you've already eaten everything else that you need to eat for the day. Okay, so let's just go over these guidelines really quick. The top 9 fucking guidelines right here. Raw meat is better than cooked meat, okay? Debate me, raw meat's bad for you. Oh my God, how can you suggest people eat raw meat? I didn't just like make this shit up and never test it on my own. Like, these are things that I have experimented with, and I have noticed that I feel better when I eat raw meat. There are many other people that agree with this as well, based on their own experiences. The people who don't agree with it are ones who can't get over the idea that eating raw meat is actually like possibly good for you. Like, oh my God, how could you eat raw meat? Oh, the diseases and shit like that. And like, humans evolved to eat cooked meat and not raw meat. Like, oh, you ever tried it? No, but okay, opinion discarded, move along. Next one. Grass-fed is better than grain-fed. Okay, from a taste perspective, this makes sense. Also, it is plausible because cows do not go out and eat fucking corn and soy. That's not like the natural food that they eat. That's not the food that they've evolved over millions of years to consume, to naturally be drawn towards, to want to eat. So one could make the argument without looking at any fucking scientific studies that like that is the ideal food for your food to be eating, which means it is the ideal food for you to be eating. And on a much like in a simpler sense, like you eat whatever your food eats, right? Because your food is consumed. If your food was eating fucking, if your cows were eating fucking mercury and toxic waste, would you want to eat that food? No, you wouldn't. So do you want to eat a bunch of fucking cornmeal and soy and ground up fucking food pellets? No, I want to eat something that's eating grass. You know what I mean? Okay, so touched on this earlier in terms of the A tier foods. Homemade rye bread, which is really like rye and pumpernickel, are technically the only breads that you should be eating. Wheat you should not ever really eat. Sorry, everyone who loves fucking wheat bread. Like I eat wheat bread. I've got fucking wheat bread in my house right now, but it's organic, non-enriched. I should have written that in here. Do not eat enriched flour. Back like 100 years ago, you know, when nobody knew anything about nutrition, that was, I guess, good. But you don't need that shit anymore. And watch this video by Dr. Berg where he talks about how the French are so thin despite the fact that they eat bread, a lot of bread. And one of the main reasons that he gave is that in France or in Europe in general, they don't eat enriched flour. Which from his video, he implies that there's a lot of bad health issues that go into eating enriched flour. Although it could also be the fact that like people consume a lot of wheat in the form of enriched flour or enriched wheat or enriched wheat flour, I guess. And that is perhaps what's leading to the issues. But anyway, the point is that if you have the option to eat homemade rye bread, or at least rye bread that does not have any wheat in it, that is ideal technically. But practically speaking, you're just going to want to go with oats, right? One of my favorite meals that I like to do, which isn't raw meat, fine, is I like to cook bacon. Love me some fucking bacon. Cook up some bacon, fry it up with some olive oil, and then cook some eggs in the like fat and olive oil mixture of the bacon that's left in the pan, and then put some oats in with the eggs and mix that all together. Wow, that is a fucking meal and a half right there. That is like, you eat that and you work out hard, you are going to grow and you're going to have a lot of energy to fucking do whatever the fuck you want. Number 4, when it comes to olive oil, ideally go for olive oil that is produced in the United States, not bottled in the United States, but you want olives that are grown in the United States. A lot of fake olive oil comes from overseas. Number 5, when it comes to C tier foods, dark chocolate is better than everything else, at least at my current point in my research / development. Like, I have not found anything that's better than dark chocolate. If you have a suggestion, something that might be better, let me know, leave me a comment. Haven't found anything, open to suggestions. Getting a little sick of dark chocolate, not gonna lie. But again, like I said, when it comes to C tier foods, anything that is not in SA or B is considered dessert, and you technically can eat anything you want for 5% of your daily calories. Go ahead, go nuts, fucking eat raw sugar or refined sugar if you want by the spoonful. But you know, dark chocolate is technically the best. And then I just wrote here, C tier is dessert, S, A, and B are real food. I've gone over that. Number 8, choose spices for taste and also the effect that they have on your body. So when you are spicing your food, I would encourage you to think of the spices that you are using on your food as if they were supplements, right? As if you were taking a pill of that spice and eating the pill, because a lot of spices are sold in the form of supplements. Pretty much every spice that you have in your kitchen or that you can buy in the store, you can buy as a separate supplement. And the reason for that is not for anything else other than the fact that those substances, when consumed, will have certain effects on your body, which is why, arguably, food was spiced in the first place, because people realized, okay, like in India, for example, curry is very popular over there because it's made from 3 very powerful spices: turmeric, fucking cumin, and I don't know, whatever the third one is. Ginger? No, not ginger. I don't know, whatever the third one is. But the reason for that is those foods, they all really help your digestive system and they boost your immune system. And in India, no offense to Indian people, it's a dirty fucking country. They don't eat any meats and they need all the help they can get when it comes to the food that they eat, because they don't eat fucking cows. they're malnourished, they're fucking poor as fuck, and like you gotta load spices into that fucking food so you don't die of malnutrition. Okay, and then finally, natural supplements are better than drugs when possible. So if you have, let's say, a natural supplement and a drug, and both of them do the same thing, preferably choose the natural one, the one that grows out of the ground and is like an actual like natural thing that's not synthesized in a lab. There are exceptions to this. One that I can think of off the top of my head is kratom versus phenibut. And the reason for that is that kratom, I think, what did I read about it? It causes like stomach issues or something like that. And phenibut is just cheaper and it's more effective, and I've never had any issues when taking it. So I prefer that. And again, like I said, there are some things that you can only get from drugs or from substances that were synthesized in a lab and not just like an herb that was ground up into a powder and put in a capsule. Okay, so that is the Yalla Papi food pyramid. Tell me, what do you think about that? Am I a genius? Well, we know I'm a genius, but do you think I'm not? Do you have anything I should add to this? Do you have any other recommendations for something other than dark chocolate? Let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.